Hi friends, and welcome back to my little series, Technocracy Loading. If you're new here, welcome. I do have two other episodes in this series. One is about the cashless society or energy credits. The second one is about cognitive liberty or freedom of thought, if you want to give those a listen. I do have more links below of people who've done extensive research on this topic if you'd like to learn more. Today in episode 3, we are going to be talking about the North American Technate. So technocracy was a political movement that started in the 1930s in the US and eventually moved its way up to Canada. This political movement believed the best way to govern would be collecting the most data possible and utilizing it when making decisions for society as a whole. This governing leadership would consist of experts, more specific scientists and engineers, and having all the data they needed at their fingertips, this leadership would lead logically, based on evidence. After all, who can argue with the conclusion of scientific facts? They believed that this would make a more efficient society overall, thus creating a utopia for what they called the North American Technate. The technocrats narrowed their focus on what they call the North American Technate. This was a map which included Greenland, Canada, Alaska, the continental US, Mexico, Cuba, and all of Central America. It was pretty audacious of them, but the Technates believed with the combination of these countries, they could create the perfect geographic region to adopt technocracy. And the organization who kind of led this effort was named Technocracy, Inc. And they wrote a study guide published in the 1930s reviewing their goals, how they would get there. It's around a 300-page document, and you could take a look at it. It's linked below. And the cover of this study guide actually showcased the North American Technate. In this study guide, they review who they are and what they want to accomplish, how they view human beings, how their society would run. It's an interesting read. I haven't read all of it. I've only read probably 25 to 30 pages. I would like to read the whole thing as I make my way through this series. So this document at the end shows some different tables. So in the appendix, this is what they write. The following 8 tables are reprinted from the Technocracy magazine. This shows the geographical area of the Technate of America from the standpoint of defense and operational necessity. Table 1 lists the countries, colonies, and islands on which today comprise the North American continental area. The map on the cover of this book illustrates this area. The remainder of the tables clearly dictate the tremendous physical wealth and productive capacity of the Technate as compared to the rest of the world. So I will pull out some pages so you guys can take a look. So page 257 here, it says the Technate of America. It shows the different countries, and it also talks about the new social order. I know we've all heard the phrase the New World Order. It's just kind of interesting that it's all kind of the same language, and it goes through the different countries, which we've talked about. Then we have the table 2, production of minerals, on page 258 at the appendix. So it lists out the American Technate, and the rest of the world goes through the aluminum, the coal, the lead, the gold, different minerals that are available. Then we have a few manufactured quantities here of industry. Then we have more industry on page 260, alcohol, automobile, beers, nitrogen, soap. It talks about what the North American Technate would have in the rest of the world total. And fuel consumption, it talks about coal, petroleum, natural gas, etc. And then we also have equipment and resources, the American Technate versus the rest of the world. So this just goes through and shows agricultural, all different productions, and why the American Technate would be a superior area to acquire rather than anywhere else, which is super interesting. They have that specific information. Again, this was back in the 1930s. And this is where I would say the lines get a little bit blurred. On my technocracy journey, if you will, I am still learning, I am researching, I just am sharing information as I'm seeing it because I am new to all of this information. I've always been really hesitant of technology, which is not technocracy, but as far as technology can go, as far as tracking our information, manipulating us, controlling us, brainwashing us, doing different things, tech as far as propaganda and all of that goes, and us living through a device. I can see a lot of danger with that, as I think a lot of people can. So in regards to technocracy, one of the first things I learned about was the North American Technate and this map that had been floating around. And as I'm learning about this, I start hearing Donald Trump speaking about wanting to acquire these different countries. And I was taken back a little bit, as the rhetoric was always regarding America first. So as I started seeing conversations happening about acquiring different countries and continents, it was very interesting to me as I'm learning about technocracy and the North American Technate. It all kind of correlated. So friends, let's take a look at what Donald Trump has to say about collecting different countries.
We have, I know many people from Canada that are good friends of mine, but the United States can't subsidize a country for $200 billion a year. We don't need their cars. We don't need their energy. We don't need their lumber. We don't need anything that they give. We do it because we want to be helpful, but it comes a point when you just can't do that. You have to run your own country. And to be honest with you, Canada only works as a state. It doesn't. We don't need anything they have. As a state, it would be one of the great states anyway. This would be the most incredible country visually. If you look at a map, they drew an artificial line right through it between Canada and the U.S. Just a straight artificial line. Somebody did it a long time ago, many, many decades ago, and makes no sense. It's so perfect as a great and cherished state.
And he makes some really good arguments there in regards to how much America is subsidizing Canada. I'm not here to argue the facts and the statistics of all of that. I'm just here to make the point that there is interest in the current administration that they wouldn't mind acquiring Canada. Let's see what he has to say here.
What is your vision for the potential annexation of Greenland and getting them potentially?
Well, I think it'll happen, and I'm just thinking, I didn't give it much thought before, but I'm sitting with a man that could be very instrumental. Mark, we need that for international security, not just security, international. We have a lot of our favorite players, cruising around the coast, and we have to be careful. And we'll be talking to you. It's a very appropriate, really a very appropriate question. Thank you.
And then we have another video as well.
To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it. Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. We will.
And there you have it. So friends, no matter how you feel toward a certain political party or a candidate, we can definitely say it's interesting that this discussion is happening, and it could be linked all the way back to a movement in the 1930s. So what do you think? Could it be a coincidence that acquiring and collecting more countries is on President Trump's to-do list? Or could there be more of a story shifting behind the scenes from America first to expanding our territory? Could this be being used to create a North American Technate and just branding it as a shiny new efficient government? Well, I'll let you do your own research and come to your own conclusion. I would love to hear what you have to say about the idea of the North American Technate. Comment your ideas below and stay tuned for my next episode.